Presentation prepared by Hasnizam bin Hamdan, Najwa Syuhada Binti Bakar, and Nazurah Binti Ishak. The chosen philosophy is Philosophy of Teacher Education for the course Philosophy and Development of Education in Malaysia. These are the elements that will be discussed throughout the presentation.
Well, thank you, Nazurah. Hi, I'm Najwa, and now we're going to look at the general view of National Philosophy of Education, FPK, and the relationship with Philosophy of Teacher Education, FPG. After that, we will discover deeper on the characteristics of FPG with some analysis. According to Mohammed 1990, the philosophy of education in general provides essential principles and guidelines related to teaching and learning, intellectual and moral building and education goals. When we say guidelines, it means providing direction on how the education should develop, such as aims, goals, objectives, content delivery, and assessment education. In Malaysia, the National Philosophy of Education (FPK) was developed by the Ministry of Education in 1988, and it was formulated based on some of our policy, documents, and ideologies. It is also the combination and integration of Rukun Negara, New Economic Policy, and National Education Policy. It is also act as the basis for building a united and progressive society and nation. There are 15 important elements highlighted in the FPK, and all of them provide different implications to an individual development. So, looking at this diagram, we might want to ask ourselves some questions such as, what is the relationship between FPK and FPG? Firstly, FPG serves as a guide for the realization of the FPK. It focuses more on the characteristics of the teachers needed to uphold the national philosophy of education. Therefore, FPG and FPK can be seen have different elements and implications towards the education. Next question. What are the similarities and differences between these two? FPK serves as a guidance, course of direction, rational opinion on matter related to education, and it helps teachers to develop and promote education as well as to understand the national education system, while FPG determine the course of direction and characteristics of teachers who are needed to fulfill the aspirations of our nation. However, both FPG and FPK are moving towards the common goal, which is to produce individuals who are intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically balanced and harmonic. Moving on to the next slide. The aim of FPG is to produce a noble teacher whose view is scientific and progressive, ready to uphold the nation's aspiration and respect the culture, guarantee individual growth, and preserve one society who is united, democratic, and progressive and disciplined. The FPG can be seen in different branches of philosophy. The first one, metaphysics. Metaphysics concerned with the nature of being. It highlights the pivotal role of teacher as agent of change within their schools, initiate and lead change process in their work, and make a difference in their classroom. A teacher who knows how to inspire and to lead change can effectively prepare students for the many challenges of their future. Number 2, epistemology. Epistemology focuses on knowledge itself and how we gain the knowledge with regard to its methods, validity, and scope, and also the distinction between justified belief and opinion. Teachers must be reflective as they need to determine what is true and what is theoretical about what they teach and must always relevant to the current trends. That is why the term progressive was used in the FPG. Next, axiology. Axiology is one of the branches that concerns with values. The teacher is responsible to set good examples to the students to uphold nation's aspirations and nation's cultural heritage. For example, that teacher must promote collaboration, especially when teaching students who are coming from diverse social cultural background. Such a counter provides them with a positive experience which helps them to develop the knowledge regarding other cultures, skills to interact with different cultural groups, and also appreciate other cultural values, thus enabling them to make reflective decisions and implement their decision in effective personal and social contexts. It also helps them to become good citizens in a pluralistic society like Malaysia. Last one is logic. Logic deals with the process of logical reasoning, and the teacher must consider the role of discovery in teaching and learning. In fact, there are outnumbered sources can be obtained from the internet. Teacher must be able to assist students in clarifying the knowledge so they are always in the right track. By implementing this, the teacher would be able to maintain professional development in order to maintain the standard and quality of teachers and teaching profession.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, afternoon or even evening depending on the time you are listening to this. I'm Hasnizam bin Hamdan, will be taking over of the elements of the philosophy of education or FPG. The FPG revolves around the well-being of the teachers and how we actually mold these teachers for the readiness of becoming the nation's education policies upholder and practitioner. The analysis has been laid out, and the vitality of upholding to the FPG is to shape exceptional personality, manners, discipline, and moral. FPG also strives for developed and relevant teachers to keep the resources up to date and current. It encompasses many branches such as take responsibility in their own self-development, be it physically, emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually. Also, being culturally aware of the differences there are in Malaysia. Finally, as teachers are the gel that bind the pupils and community, it is indeed important for the teachers to realize of the huge responsibility that they have to carry in contributing towards nation building. Thus, the elements of FPG are crucial and significant in achieving success in Malaysia's education system. Hi, it's me Hasnizam, and I will be talking about the current trend of education that most of us have experienced but not entirely. Professional Learning Community, or better known as PLC, is an effort of self-development where knowledge, experience and thoughts are being transmitted and shared among teachers. According to Hassan et al. 2018, PLC was widely known when it was featured in the Ministry of Education Malaysia Interim Strategic Planning 2011 to 2020 for the first time. The concept is also called as pedagogy, whereby the sharing is done among peers or colleagues. Normally, this happens in a teacher gathering setting rather than a formal meeting session as to keep the environment less intense and peer-friendly. the sharing oftenly done by the knowledgeable ones in hope for a betterment in terms of administration, teaching-related work, and pupils' achievement. Fret not, PLC is a two-way street where the teachers get to share their own experiences in response to the topic that they cover. This, in fact, promotes better learning experience and can enhance the outcome of the learners.
Hello, my name is Nazurah Binti Ishak and I'll be presenting this part of the presentation. When we talk about current national education policy, it's almost impossible not to talk about the current trends in education. The most talked about current trend in education is 21st century learning, which revolves around these skills dubbed as the 6 C's, namely critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, connectivity, and culture, with the last two skills taken from Anugrahwati 2019 and Abdul Al-Latif and Al-Yakin 2021. Please be noted that some researchers might use character and citizenship instead to mean connectivity and culture. However, they basically mean the same thing. So, let's talk about the first 4 C's, as these are the most frequently identified 21st century learning skills along with its literacy and life skills. As taken from Kerr et al. 2018 and Urbani et al. 2017. Before the other 2 C's were introduced somewhere in 2015 by education experts Miller and Fulan, as mentioned in Anugrahwati. Firstly, critical thinking is methods of filtering, analyzing, and questioning information in general, especially those found on the mass and social media and the internet, as mentioned in Anugrahwati. This is specifically relevant in this day and age of COVID-19 pandemic, as people are being kept isolated from one another, and the only way of communicating with one another is through the use of internet and social media. False information might be passed around like raindrops falling from the sky, and it is easy to be fooled into thinking that these information are true. Therefore, critical thinking in 21st century learning skills prepares learners to be cautious in dealing with the abundance of information circulating the internet. Just on 1st May of this year, Malaysia was troubled with the news of a 12-year-old primary school boy having been scammed an enormous sum of 25,400 ringgit Malaysia for an iPhone 11 Pro that he thought he was getting for just 500 bucks, as reported by Sinar Harian. Hence, critical thinking as defined by Anugrahwati is a requisite, especially to schoolgoers. Aside from that, critical thinking is basically the ability to use higher order thinking skills, or HOTS for short, as taken from Urbani et al. 2017, to solve various kinds of problems. HOTS is believed to be the highest level of cognitive capacity. As mentioned in Saleh and Halim 2019, thus why the MOE mentions critical thinking as the first skill under thinking skill, which is listed as the second student aspiration out of the 6. As stated by Abdul Al-Latif and Al-Yakin 2021 in the slideshow, critical thinking centers around taxonomy Bloom, specifically applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, because the first 2 abilities are considered as lower order thinking skills, again mentioned by Saleh and Halim. As per the case mentioned earlier, the boy could have used his evaluating skill and judged the situation logically before actually paying for the phone, quote unquote, so as to avoid being scammed. Secondly, creativity is defined as the ability to innovatively create and produce something, whether it be tangible or intangible, as mentioned by Anugrahwati and Abdul Al-Latif and Al-Yakin. Creativity is linked to entrepreneurial mindset and job creation, as mentioned by Kay and Greenhill 2011, which could be the answer to Malaysia's high unemployment rate of 4.5% as of May 2021, as reported in the Sun Daily. An example of this is the popular home cook duo Sugu Pavitra and husband, who have managed to gain national support for their cooking channel on YouTube, which was created somewhere last year when the pandemic initially unfurled. They were able to buy a house for their family during the pandemic with the money they made from their cooking channel on YouTube. They were able to think unconventionally to figure out how to make a living by just posting videos on YouTube. Based on this example, it is understandable why creative thinking, which is an element of thinking skills, is included as one of the 6 student aspirations under PPPM 2013-2025 and why creativity is considered integral in 21st century learning. Thirdly, collaboration in the classroom occurs when learners work together to achieve a common goal. As stated in the slideshow, collaboration is the amalgamation of various skills, talents, personalities, knowledge, and backgrounds in order to produce something. It is also the ability to share ideas and thoughts openly alongside another person in order to come up with a combined answer or response or solution about a particular topic or issue. In other words, it is the capability of integrating different beliefs, theories, and worldviews into one concrete explanation, understanding, and solution that is reflective of the group itself. Cooperation is a salient aspect of collaboration, whereby teamwork is needed in order to realize a goal. Now, why is collaboration an important characteristic of 21st century learning? Emil Durkheim, a famous sociologist, discovered that the reason why modern society is so complex is because we're given too much freedom. Countries are becoming more and more complex now, more anonymous, more heterogeneous, and more pluralized, as mentioned in Hoff 2020. Imagine a situation where children from polar opposite backgrounds have to work together on a project regarding their favorite food. For example, they have to take into consideration the other person's religious dietary restrictions and what can and cannot be brought to school. Also, let's say that they come into a disagreement and are they going to handle it diplomatically or are they going to handle it tactlessly? The student aspiration that can be linked to this is ethics and spirituality, whereby it is stated in the PPPM that every child must be inculcated with knowledge on how to resolve conflicts peacefully, also known as conflict resolution, as mentioned by Child and Shaw 2015, in order to prepare them with the challenges they'll be facing in adult life, where they'll be dealing with Malaysians from all walks of life. Fourth, communication is defined as the ability to convey and decode meaning and information as it is, by being persuasive, instructive, motivative, and informative, as stated by Anugrahwati. Also, providing feedbacks accordingly is considered as having good communicative skills, as mentioned by Abdul Al-Latif and Al-Yakin, which means it also requires strong listening and evaluation skills. Aside from that, communication in 21st century learning revolves around the use of technology and digital platform to share information while expressing their thoughts and opinions clearly to others, as stated by Robbins et al. 2020. An example of the current communication situation during the COVID-19 pandemic between the school community is handing out tasks online to students through the means of social media, such as Telegram and WhatsApp, and through the means of digital learning platform such as Google Classroom, whereby the chances of miscommunication is high. I have had pupils asking me about which task is to be done, although I have communicated that explicitly in the video lecture I have sent them. So, whenever I hand out tasks, I make sure to type the instructions as well and be sure to bold them as well, although everything is already mentioned in the video. The government has provided teachers and learners with an effective platform for teaching and learning to take place efficiently through Digital Educational Learning Initiative Malaysia, or better known as the LIMA, to help bridge the problem of physical distancing during a pandemic. The government's effort in doing so can be related to efficiency under system aspirations stated in the PPPM. Fifth, culture is basically the ability to understand the people around you, although they might not come from the same background as you. It is also appreciating and understanding diverse values and worldviews, which then will indirectly fuel the compassion, empathy, and concern for the community as conceptualized by Trevelyan and Crusanelli 2021. Abdul Al-Latif and Al-Yakin states that culture requires students to value their own traditions and heritage, which makes them uniquely them. In this case, culture or citizenship can be linked to national identity under student aspirations, whereby it is stated in the PPPM that every child will proudly identify as Malaysian, irrespective of ethnicity, religion, or socioeconomic status. And in order for that to happen, teachers must play our part by making sure that every child feels included in the conversation or narrative regardless of their background. No child must feel like an outlier for something that they cannot control, such as their race and ethnicity, the language that they speak, their religion, etc. This can be linked to FPG's personal well-being, whereby teachers have to be morally good and well-mannered, and FPG's sustain nation's culture heritage. One example of doing so is teachers can wish the marginalized group of students during their cultural festivities such as Pongal, Taipusam, Chinese New Year, Mooncake Festival, and so on. Teachers can even bring some cultural food to school in order to make these students feel like they belong, that they are indeed Malaysian, by treating them like our own. Lastly, connectivity is defined as students' ability to use ICT or information and communications technology productively and effectively. It also refers to students' etiquette in doing so, as mentioned by Abdul Al-Latif and Al-Yakin, as it is of utmost important that these students stay morally good even when their parents aren't there to supervise what they communicate online, especially when they are communicating with another member of the society. Because how can unity be achieved by calling each other vulgar names and treating each other as foreigners? Hence, also the reason why Islamic and moral education is highlighted in the PPPM as part of Shift 3, also known as Develop Values-Driven Malaysia. An example of how teachers can uphold this notion is by being good role models themselves and to only use words that are morally accepted by the society in the classroom, and to provide opportunities for students to be taught using ICT so that they know how to go about things online and so that they would know what is right and what is wrong whenever they socialize virtually. To some, teachers are at the forefront of the education system or education policy. Just as doctors are frontliners in combating COVID-19, teachers are frontliners in making sure that this country will have a bright future by educating the youngsters of today for the world of tomorrow by employing all the elements of FPG and combining those with the current trends in education, such as the 21st century skills.
Hello, it's me again, Hasnizam, and this time I will be focusing on the implications of philosophy of teacher education on the current education system in Malaysia. When FPG was constructed for the teachers, it was highly regarded as the direction of an ideal teacher figure that could contribute to many efficacious achievements, especially towards pupils. Among all, the FPG drives towards upholding teachers in instilling high moral standards and values in educating pupils. For instance, when a teacher shows by example not to discriminate dark complexion by praising their pupil as having beautiful skin, that will reflect to the other pupils that it is no different in the social segment that having dark skin is an issue. Next, one of the implications is respecting and acknowledging different race and cultures. This is in line with the government effort to prospering diversity and appreciate differences. Besides that, the effect of FPG also revolves around appointing the teachers as the agency of nation building. This is commonly associated with rural areas where there is a lack of knowledge, and the teacher becomes a catalyst to giving awareness to transform the community towards a better future. Within the current TS25 program, it upholds the FPG by incorporating teachers, administration, and community level in empowering education to ensure a holistic support towards the pupils. Many schools have been successful, especially with the one having strong support from the Parent-Teacher Association or PIBG. In line with that, pupils will be more involved and interested in learning as their parents are visible in their education scene. Next, by applying FPG in daily work routine, it helps to reduce social problems among pupils. Lead by example is one of the ways to show pupils of what one should and should not do. When the teacher is at his best manner, the pupils will follow suit eventually. Hidden curriculum, as its name suggests, is embedding intangible lessons in pupils. Moral values, personality, and manners are among the hidden curriculum that happens intrinsically. In pursuing FPG, it is important to inculcate the reach of ICT in teaching and learning process. As the world evolves, the means of teaching and learning also morph. The use of many digital platforms can sustain pupils' attention and interest. This also means that the education system is running towards digitalization. Finally, with the current trend of teaching and learning and FPG, pupils nowadays are more autonomous and can work with minimal supervision. Teachers stay visible to assist in terms of resources, but the major process of finding the solution of a problem is done by the pupils. This self-discovery method is most likely preferred as the learning process occurs in their own pace.
Now, we have come to the end of this presentation. In a nutshell, after seeing all these changes in the education system, we now understand that these changes was made to fit the social change and the advancement of technology, while at the same time it must be aligned with what has set by the Ministry of Education. As the executor, the teachers are the most important agents in the educational process because they directly organize students' learning experiences. Teacher has the power to change one's life by giving the children purpose, set them up for success as citizens, and inspire them to do well and succeed in life. Therefore, before carrying out their tasks, they must be able to understand the whole concept of philosophy of teacher education first, and then be able to reflect those elements needed in order to fit the purpose of philosophy of education. They also need to keep pace with the current trends by adopting 21st century learning as regulated in Malaysia Education Blueprint in order to meet the objectives of FPK, which is to produce individual with high level of personal well-being, to contribute to the betterment of the nation, family, and society. That's all from us. Thank you for listening.